definitions for you to make notes on. A case of food poisoning or foodborne disease is a person suffering from the illness. A healthy carrier, or sometimes called a carrier, is an infected person without the symptoms. So they don't outwardly show any symptoms of food poisoning or foodborne disease, but they could nevertheless be carrying the organism. Let's have a look at the comparison between food poisoning and foodborne disease, or rather the differences between them. Food poisoning, millions of bacteria required, whereas with foodborne disease, small numbers only. With food poisoning, bacteria multiply in the food. Foodborne disease, food is only a vehicle. Food poisoning, vehicles other than food are unlikely. Foodborne disease, other vehicles are common. Food poisoning, person to person is rare, but with foodborne disease, person to person is common, especially with things like viral gastroenteritis. Food poisoning, airborne is unlikely. Foodborne disease, airborne is common. And lastly, with food poisoning, there's a short onset. In other words, it happens quickly. With the foodborne disease, it takes a lot longer, so there's a longer onset. Personal hygiene now. You must maintain the highest possible standards of personal hygiene to avoid contaminating food. Protective clothing. This is a key ingredient in maintaining good personal hygiene. The main thing to consider with protective clothing is there to protect the food or product you're dealing with from your infection, from your contamination, from your external clothing and body. It's not to protect you from splashes or spillages. Different types of protective clothing, including overalls, jackets, trousers, aprons, hats, hairnets, neck coverings, safety shoes, boots, although that's more health and safety than food safety. And lastly, gloves. Be very careful with gloves because you can cross-contaminate wearing gloves. If you do wear gloves, then you need to change them regularly, definitely between different tasks. And when you do change them, make sure you wash your hands before you put the gloves back on. Try to avoid jewellery, which could fall off and end up as a physical contaminant. Try to avoid wearing watches, where you could get a build-up of food and debris and bacteria underneath the strap. Try to avoid perfumes and aftershave, which could chemically contaminate the product. Also try to avoid heavy makeup and nail varnish, which again could end up as a physical contaminant. Let's have a look at things which you should and shouldn't do whilst you're preparing food. First of all, do not smoke, cough or sneeze over food, pick your nose or pick yourself, spit, bite nails or lick fingers, eat in the food area, scratch, touch your face or hair. Things which you must do: always cover cuts with a blue waterproof plaster. Again, this is a protective dressing, protecting any infection from coming from your cut or graze into the food or drink that you're preparing. It's blue because it's easy to see if it falls into any food products. Keep nails short and clean for two reasons. If they are short, they're easier to keep clean. If they are long, then there's the potential for bits of the nail to fall off and end up as a physical contaminant. Always wash your hands regularly, which we'll cover in more in depth later on, and report all illnesses and septic wounds to your supervisor before you return to work. Again, we'll be looking at that in more detail. Washing your hands is crucial within the catering industry. When should you wash your hands? Well, I've got some examples here on this slide, and on the following slides I precede that into about 5. First of all, after entering the food room or production area, after using the toilet, after handling raw food, that's including meat and any vegetables with soil contamination, changing a dressing, whether it's yours or a colleague's, dealing with an ill customer, especially if they're vomiting, because there's a lot of pathogens in vomit, cleaning up any dog dirt or any other excrement, handling a dirty nappy, touching hair, nose or face, smoking, eating, coughing, sneezing, blowing your nose, cleaning, handling waste, handling money, and handling any external packaging. So those are quite a few times when you should wash your hands. You can probably think of other occasions when you should wash your hands as well. But let's look at the priority for hand washing. The main time then to wash your hands is after using the toilet, whether it's number 1s or number 2s, because you will find bacteria in urine as well as in faeces. The second occasion when you must wash your hands is before entering a food production area. Also, another ideal time would be once you've entered the food production area. Before you actually start work, look for the nearest hand wash sink and wash your hands. The next occasion is after dealing with the dressing, whether it's a dressing on your body or on a colleague's body. The next situation is dealing with an ill customer, especially if they've been vomiting. And lastly, after dealing with raw products, although it shows on the slide somebody dealing with raw sausages or raw meat, you should also wash your hands once you've been dealing with salt contaminated food, such as raw vegetables. So how do we wash our hands? Food scientists and food safety experts have found that over the years the best way to wash your hands now is to use plain old simple soap and water. Now the system I'm going to talk through here is the double hand wash system that's been pioneered in the United States by a Dr. John Snyder, and basically it's washing your hands twice, especially when you've got heavy soiling on your hands, especially when you've gone to the toilet, for example. So you start off with warm running water, going into a hand washing sink where there's no stopper, so the water's running straight through. The temperature of the water is really for comfort purposes. It's nothing to do with killing bacteria. If it's too cold, you won't want to wash your hands. If it's too hot, you could possibly scald your hands. You will then need a soft nylon filament nail brush, and you will need liquid soap. Try to avoid bar soap, or try to avoid liquid soap from refillable containers. The liquid soap should come from a container, while once it's empty you replace it, because you can't get a build-up of mold growth on bar soap and in refillable liquid soap containers. So first of all, build up a bit of a foam or lather in the nail brush, also a lather in your hands. Then wash vigorously either side of hands, backs of hands between fingers and to all exposed parts of the skin up to your forearms. Then use the nail brush on the front and backs of nails. Rinse that off under the warm running water and repeat the process. Now it has been found that up to stage 7 the number of bacteria have been reduced round about to about 200 to 250. The best way then to reduce it even further is to dry your hands. You must always dry your hands after you've washed them, and the best way to dry your hands is to use a disposable paper towel, preferably the coloured variety, which if bits of it get into food you will be able to see it as a physical contaminant. Try to avoid roller towels as they tend to become jammed more often than not, and try to avoid air dryers which warm up the environment, and they'll tend to redistribute any spores and bacteria that are in the environment. Now the premise these days is to flush the bacteria into the water supply. We're not looking at killing the bacteria. If you start using bactericides, the bactericides you get in hand wash soaps, for example, they take at least 2 minutes to become effective, and it takes roughly about 20 seconds to wash your hands. So the majority of that chemical is going down to the water system and actually killing any flora and fauna in the environment. Be careful of using alcoholic gels as well, because what that will do will actually degrease your hands. It can actually give you dermatitis through overuse. So try to avoid alcoholic gel. By the way, alcoholic gel doesn't get under the biofilms and the grease layers of dirt to kill bacteria. So it's pretty useless if your hands are dirty in the first place.